all for the glory of Catherine. Catherine the Great is a miniseries from HBO starring Helen Mirren as Catherine, Jason Clarke as her lover and favorite, Grigory Potemkin, and Kevin McNally, Mr. Gibbs from Pirates of the Caribbean, as her war minister and rival to Potemkin, Alexei Orlov. Following the coup d'etat led by Catherine, Orlov, and several others to remove Peter III of Russia, Catherine takes over the throne in 1762, I believe, and would continue to rule until her death in 1796. On her death, her son does take over the throne and proceeds to kind of piss about and, in essence, kind of ruin a lot of the reforms that Catherine tried to do, and it eventually led to his own assassination by his son, Catherine's grandson, who you find out in the miniseries she actually wanted to be her heir, successor, and take over the Russian throne following her death. This is a good miniseries. It was one that kind of suffers from poor marketing. I never really saw it advertised until I stumbled upon it on HBO Go about a month or so ago, and I finally got around to deciding to watch it. It is 4 episodes of approximately an hour apiece, so it does go by pretty quickly, and the series does cover the large breadth of Catherine's rule from 62 until her death in 96, but it doesn't really suffer from a lot of lag because it does encompass such a large number of years that she ruled, and it does kind of squeeze it into 4 hours. But the real focus of the story is on Catherine, her various favorites and lovers that she took during her time, and specifically the relationship with Grigory Potemkin, who would rise among the ranks from a lieutenant in the army until to a general, and then finally the leader of all of the armies of Russia just before his death in the early 1790s, I believe. Throughout the story, we see kind of the dynamic that Catherine has with Potemkin, Orlov, and some of her other lovers, in that she really just does not give a shit what anybody thinks. She is the Empress of Russia, and she's going to do whatever she wants. Helen Mirren is phenomenal in this role, and even though she is a bit older as an actress, she brings it. You know, Catherine, we're talking about a 30-year period of her life. I believe she died when she was in her mid-60s. So Helen Mirren is close to kind of the age she is at when she dies. But throughout the miniseries, they kind of play with the fact that she is a little bit older, kind of a cougar in essence, who is selecting lovers based upon sometimes it's more trivial features such as their appearance, but she also does make comments regarding how she's looking for someone of substance. And Jason Clarke's character, Grigory Potemkin, actually fulfills this. There's several moments where they try to do some courtroom intrigue and kind of turn to the different uprisings that she does have and a lot of the bad blood between her and her son that would eventually lead to, once she died, him basically just demonizing her, calling her a whore, number of things just to make her seem bad in public perception, when a lot of the reforms and stuff that they touched on, Catherine seems to really be for the common person in Russia at this time, more so than the aristocracy, who is trying to position themselves and take over and kind of rule while also kind of limiting her power or her ability to increase the Russian Empire at this time. It does note on the Turco-Russia Wars, along with the annexation of Crimea by Potemkin for Catherine. There's a couple of very good shots when you can see the love between them, and again, you know, there is kind of an age gap between Helen Mirren and Jason Clarke in this, but it doesn't really affect any of the action between them or the love that they experience on camera. Because she is a stud in this, and there is no way to get around it. She is basically a man-eater who just does what she wants and takes over. She is a very domineering, powerful female character in this, and it shows you what she would have had to done in that actual time, because, you know, women's rights weren't a thing, but Catherine was the ruler of Russia. Understand the relationship that you have between her, because she is the most powerful figure in Russia. She is a female. She has all these men who are, in essence, subservient to her, but are also angling for their own quest for power. And a lot of them kind of view Catherine as a springboard and how they can use her to achieve greatness, you know, victory in war, money, power, whatever needs to be done. And they kind of play off of that fact. The dynamic or tension between her and her son is throughout the miniseries. She doesn't trust her son. She doesn't believe he's an honorable person. So she takes her grandson and tries to raise him as he should be. My only real big complaint with the miniseries is they tried to show that Catherine does start to struggle a little bit mentally in terms of some of her actions and things she does following the death of Potemkin. And because the story is really just about Catherine and Potemkin and kind of the other players that bounce in and out of their lives, most of it is the miniseries is devoted to that, with the final installment leading up to his death and then her last few years and her death. But the biggest problem with that is once Potemkin dies, there's not much time left in the miniseries, and they kind of rush some of the things to show how Catherine is slipping, how her mind is going, or how she seems to be turning against some of the things that she once stood for and how she governed or ruled Russia. Didn't really show this progression, and it was only about 15 minutes or so. He dies. She's a little bit older, and all of a sudden she starts kind of going crazy, and they have one instance where she starts burning books, burning Voltaire, and then there's even one where one of her handmaidens or maids of honor, or whatever you want to call them, talks to her and is like, well, you used to love Voltaire. What happened to you? And it doesn't really jive with the rest of the miniseries because it does kind of come out of left field, and all of a sudden happen. She's burning books. Beforehand, she was talking about the free thinkers and the proliferation of education and enlightenment, which she was trying to bring to Russia, which was a very male-oriented, domineering society at this time, and in fact would remain a male-oriented, domineering society after the death of Catherine the Great. And it shows it at the end of the miniseries that her son's real goal, once he took power, was to wipe the memory of Catherine from the history books. I would absolutely recommend this miniseries. It is really good. Again, my biggest complaint stems from probably the fact that HBO didn't do more marketing to it, and then that little bit at the end where they kind of tried to rush her mental decline and show that she was now doing things that was against what she originally started when she came to power. It is good. It's only 4 hours long, give or take a few minutes, so if you got some time, go ahead and go over to HBO Go, and give it a watch, and I don't think you will be disappointed. The costumes, everything is just beautiful to look at, and almost multiple times you can just pause it and go and see some of the beautiful architecture, clothing, the gilded walls and things like that, and it works out really well. Thank you.